Hey everybody, Patrick Hostis here. Just going to give it a minute. Let me get a couple things set up here. Got a lot of stuff to cover today. All right. Again, if you have any comments or questions or anything, go ahead and send them on the live chat, and I'll be monitoring this as we go through today. So obviously, probably the first thing we need to talk about is about Mr. Donald Trump's son and what he got himself wrapped up in. So this is the to put it succinctly, he should have never been caught in this position. This was a very amateur mistake that Mr. Trump's son here made, and he really shouldn't have been caught in it, but it was kind of an understandable mistake from somebody that has absolutely no experience in government. But speaking as somebody that has a little bit of experience in government, I can tell you what was really obvious about this trap. This clearly was some kind of a trap laid to snare him. And your first clue is right here. And the subject of the email, and these are the emails, the entire email string that they're talking about. Donald Trump Jr. knew they were going to just leak these out a little bit of information at a time. So he decided just to leak the whole thing out, which, a lot of people are giving him flack for, but I think he's right in this instance. It was best to just get it all out there so they can't do this death by 1,000 drops crap like they love to do. This kind of water torture is not conductive to getting the agenda of the president done. So anyway, the subject right here, when you see it, it says Russia, Clinton, private and confidential. Okay, that's not how these type of things worked. When I got out of the military, I worked a little bit with campaigns and things like that and got to know how politics work. And that's where I decided politics is completely disgusting and I don't want to sell out my soul. I want to continue to tell the truth, and that's why I turned away from being an active in politics. But I did learn how things worked. I'm a pretty quick learner. If you're going to talk about something like this, where you're going to do kind of op research or something like that, you're not going to put something like this on there that'll flag it for possible later use against you. That's just not how it's done. It'll be done a lot more low key than that. A lot of the big things and details and all that's done a lot by phone and in person. You're not going to typically see things like this, especially at a high level. Even at the low level that I worked in politics, you didn't see these type of things. So this was kind of an obvious something that he should have been looking out for. But anyway, when you go on with it, it says, "Good morning, Emma," and this is from Rob Goldstein, who apparently, what this clown do? He was a publicist or something. Rob Goldstein, effort to be Donald Trump. Yeah, whatever. An exchange to, I don't know, he's a publicist or something, somebody he knew. But anyway, this is not the typical way that you would get juicy information from a foreign government, but whatever. Anyway, it says, "Good morning. Emin just called me and asked me to contact you with something very interesting. The Crown Prosecutor of Russia," I don't know what the hell that means, by the way, "met with his father, Aris, this morning, and in their meeting offered to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government's," see that right there? Possession. "Support for Mr. Trump, helped along by Aris and Emin." Yeah, okay. To me, this looks like they were setting the table for this Russian collusion thing a long time ago. And if I hope that after this, Donald Jr. got a lot smarter about spotting these traps, because I'm not so sure this was the last one. But anyway, he fell for this. When you see lines like this, incriminate, words like this, you don't use words like this when you're describing things like this. Incriminate Hitler, the Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump. And like, this clown represents them. I mean, please, it just makes no sense. And then, he goes on, "What do you think the best way to handle this information, and would you be able to speak with Emin about it directly? I can also send this info to your father via Rona, but it's ultra sensitive, so wanted to send it to you first, or send to you first. Best, Rob Goldstone. And then you go down here, and this is Donald Trump's, or Trump Jr.'s response. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. I'm on the road at the moment, but perhaps I just speak to Emin first. Seems we have some time, and if it's what you say, I love it, especially later in the summer. Could we do a call first thing next week when I'm back? When I am back, best, Don. So that was his response back. Um, the operative parts of this, saying he loves it if it's what you say it is, and all that, but I don't really have so much of a problem with his response here. What I have a problem is that he even responded to an email like this with a crappy subject like this, and with this crap up here about incriminating Hitler, or I'm sorry, Hillary. I get those two mixed up all the time. I don't know why. Incriminate Hillary and part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump. That's just really suspicious to me that was thrown in there. But anyway, he didn't catch that, or he did and he didn't care, and he responded back. And I don't really have much of a problem saying, oh, I love it, and we'll do the meeting. So if you keep going down, it's just them talking about, hey, can we meet up and this and that. There's nothing in there rather than him saying about this Hillary info right here. Hi, Don, let me know if you're free to talk about with Emin about this Hillary info. That's it. That's the extent of it. And it goes on and on and on. And then when you listen to, I just listened to Trump Jr. on Sean Hannity's show, and he basically says they walk in, and apparently this Russian attorney lady they met with wanted to talk about some, I don't even know what they did, some weird law that's been passed, something about Americans can't adopt Russian kids or something. I don't know, something that was harming a lot of her clients, apparently, that she was trying to get help with from the Trump administration, or potential Trump administration with, I guess. And Donald Trump Jr. said, well, I thought, this was about this meeting or some information about Hillary. And the lawyer lady was like, well, we don't have anything like that. And apparently, and it went on from there. So it sounds to me like somebody was trying to cook this up, or at a bare minimum, build up some kind of an email trail that would at least give somewhat of the whiff of reasonable evidence to kind of justify all this worthless waste of time on all this Russia crap that's been going on for months on end now. And you also have to remember, when you go down this email, this is June 3rd, 2016. This is before you started seeing the real crazy Russia paranoia popping off everywhere. And every time it wasn't back in the day when you heard the word Russia and collusion a billion times a day from the mainstream media. They were busy just saying Obama, greatest president ever. They weren't busy with the Russia collusion thing like they are now. But nowadays that seems to be what they're following. And there's this other article out that came out in New York Post where it says Donald Trump Jr. is an idiot. It's their words. It says, in the heat of your father's presidential campaign, a bozo British publicist emails you to set up a sit-down with the Russian government attorney, promising documents and information to incriminate Hillary, courtesy of the Crown Prosecutor of Russia as part of the Russia government support for Dad, and you eagerly take the meeting. If it's what you say, I love it, wrote Jr., as if the government of former KGB spy master Vladimir Putin would do anything so clumsy. Our former colleague Kyle Smith put it nicely. Don Jr. is why Nigerian email scammers keep trying their luck. And you know what? That's exactly right. They're exactly right about this, because when you're going to get really good, high quality intel like that, it's not going to come from some douchebag publicist. I'm sorry. It's just not. And it could be a nice guy, but I'm sorry, dude. You popped up on my sandbox now, and you're gumming up the guy that I wanted to fix my country. So now you're really kind of a douchebag. So sorry, bud. Anyway, worse, he dragged brother-in-law Jared Kushner and then campaign chief Paul Manafort into the meeting, which proved to be a bid by a Moscow fixer to undo a U.S. law causing trouble for her clients. Reportedly, Kushner walked out within 10 minutes while Manafort did work on his phone. And someone so careless with the email trail that it all wound up being fed to the New York Times for days of headlines that at best undermine President Trump's agenda, as both health and tax reform hang in the balance in Congress. Dumb, 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 as were Jr.'s shifting incomplete accounts of the meeting under days of Times questioning. Democrats and the media are frothing to find something criminal in it all, with the most unhinged talking treason. What it clearly was criminally stupid. And I agree with that. It was that. I'm sorry. I mean, it may seem like a minor deal, but that was really stupid that he bit for something like this. And now look, I mean, Maxine Waters and the rest of those psychos just got a huge, infusion of oxygen right now to just keep going with this garbage, because this stupid, worthless meeting set up by this douchebag publicist has just created the illusion of evidence of this so-called Russian collusion. And you got to remember, the people that believe this crap and think that this is treasonable are uneducated morons that don't understand the law and don't understand reality. So they're going to believe this crap. And it's going to give more believability to crappy news outlets like CNN, who was on its last legs as of not too long ago. And now, who knows? Their viewership might actually increase, and then they'll actually start beating Yogi Bear. I don't know if you all caught that, but Yogi Bear on Cartoon Network or something is Nick at Night, actually. Yeah, Nick at Night is beating CNN. So, I mean, I not surprise me, but it is. So anyway, as a period onto this sentence here, I think this was a really stupid thing for him to get caught in. We're going to have to listen to this crap for probably weeks and weeks, if not months on end. They're going to probably want some kind of a sacrificial lamb. They may be able to force the Trump administration, to some horse dealing. Maybe we'll stop trying to, hang your son if you stop talking about that silly wall. Couldn't something like that happen? This opens the door to all kinds of unpleasant possibilities, all because you took a meeting from some douchebag publicist who sent you a crappy email. I mean, really, Don? Dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb. I agree with the Post editorial board. Dumb. Really dumb. And, what can you do? I mean, we're going to be listening to this forever now for, another, who knows? And, I don't know. I think that by and large, the majority of Americans just don't care. I mean, I really don't give a damn if Don Jr. met with Stalin himself, as long as they fix the damn country. I really don't care what his son does. I mean, Obama's brother lived in like some kind of a tin hut in Africa. I mean, nobody cared about that. So I don't know why all of a sudden they care about this guy, but whatever. Well, yeah, because he's Trump and they want to bring him down any way they can. And now they just gave them at least the illusion of some kind of implement of destruction. And this is really stupid. And I'm really disappointed. A lot of these scandals or so-called scandals that are being thrust on the Trump administration, a lot of that's just all BS. That is, they do things that every other politician does. But when you're Donald Trump, well, it's just that much worse, apparently. But what was really surprising to me, I mean, when they kind of want to shift this thing to being, if you watched only CNN and MSNBC and all that, you would really believe that this country's been hijacked by a dictator, right? So you got all these simple-minded, low-education voters are out there listening to this crap and get more amped up, like, yeah, Trump's this, Trump's that, and Trump's, working with the Russians and selling us out, and we're all going to be speaking Russian and eating borscht or whatever the hell they eat there, and it's just going to be bad. And then all of a sudden, this breaking email string comes out, and you're already pretty stupid. And then you read this is evidence to you, and then you're going to demand, and who knows where this could go. It's just a big damn distraction we don't need. And I really don't appreciate, this is starting to get really unprofessional on the Trump administration's part. They shouldn't be caught in crap like this. This is stupid. How the hell do you give the Democrats a gift like this? And also, you gave many members of your own party this gift because a lot of them hate you. Lindsey Graham, Paul Ryan, McCain, just to name a couple. All right. Well, I don't want to beat the horse to death too much, but I hope my disappointment at Don Jr. came through. I don't want to do another video about this ever again, but I'm probably going to have to, because they're just going to key it. Something else will come out of it, or it'll, who knows. So it's just a big damn mess. And there's more important things we need to be focused on, and I want to show you what those are. For example, it looks like we're going to be possibly sending more troops back to Benghazi. If you don't remember where that was, that's down in Libya. That's where that whole what was with the Obama crafty. I'm sorry, I had a cat jump on my lap there. I have a lot of cats too. Forgot to mention that. So, if you remember the little Benghazi fiasco where Hillary Clinton and her abettor Obama decided to intervene in Libya based upon their own greed and their own love of war and destruction and misery, um, opened that whole thing up, and then you had the whole horrible scenario what happened at Benghazi and with the ambassador being killed and those guys being left there to, basically U.S. military wasn't allowed to help them. And it was just a horrible situation. Nothing good's ever come out of Libya. Ever since we assisted we assisted ISIS type folks in taking the government over. And strangely enough, they weren't any better than Gaddafi. As a matter of fact, they're worse. Huh. Go figure. So apparently, and then you see that video of Hillary Clinton sitting there clapping, we came, we saw, he died, like, giggling like it's so funny. Yeah, well, it's not funny for all the Libyans who are dead, or for the Americans that are dead, or for Ambassador Stevens' family because he's dead, all because of our involvement in this meaningless country that we should have nothing to do with. Well, looks like we may be going back. The Obama administration, this is off of Ron Paul's Institute for Peace and Prosperity. I caught it off a couple other websites today. The Obama administration's lies, crafted mostly by Hillary Clinton to justify U.S. attack on Libya, were grotesque, and the liberation of that country created a living hell on earth for the very citizens we are supposed to be saving. After 6 years of chaos and a 2012 attack on a U.S. installation in Benghazi, the Trump administration is reportedly preparing a policy shift on Libya that will bring permanently stationed U.S. troops into the country. How does yet another overseas U.S. military mission square with President Trump's campaign promise to put America first? That's a very good question, and I would love to know why the hell we're permanently stationing people in Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's mess. I would like an answer to that. But you know what? I probably will never get an answer to that because everybody's going to be busy about talking about the last story I covered, which is an absolutely waste of everybody's time. And by the time somebody pays attention to this, we'll already have troops there getting killed again. So that's how these things work, apparently. And another piece of real news that we should be following rather than this dumb douchebag publicist setting up Don Jr. is this looks like the Russians aren't playing nice with us anymore. It's strange when you accuse somebody of being the worst state on earth since Hitler, and you accuse that country, since Nazi Germany, and then you accuse that leader of being basically Hitler for years and years on end. It seems like they actually have a breaking point, strangely enough. When Obama, and this is off of Zero Hedge, by the way, when Obama announced the expulsion of 35 Russian diplomats and the seizure of Russian diplomatic compounds in Maryland last December in response to alleged Russian interference in the election, Putin just smiled and said Russia would not retaliate, expecting that relations between Russia and the U.S. would normalize under President Trump. 6 months later, relations have not only not normalized, but they have deteriorated further following the latest round of sanctions against Russia, despite daily allegations that Trump colluded with the Kremlin to convince several million Americans to vote against Hillary. As a result, Putin's patience appears to have run out, and according to Russian newspaper, I don't even know how to say that, Izvestia maybe, the Kremlin is about to expel 30 U.S. diplomats and freeze some U.S. assets in a retaliatory move against Washington. Quoting a foreign ministry source, that newspaper says the move is due to failure to reach an agreement on 2 Russian diplomatic compounds in the U.S. seized by the outgoing Obama administration in December of last year. There is a preliminary agreement on holding a meeting between Russian Deputy Prime Minister Sergei Ryanbach, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name, and U.S. Senator Secretary of State Thomas Shannon. Yes, I got that right, in St. Petersburg. If the compromise is not found there, we will have to take such measures. Okay, so, I knew this was going to happen. They're not going to take this crap forever. We would have responded already. So I think they were kind of hedging their bets that the Trump administration would be something different. But this, the loss of 30 diplomats and freezing some of our assets affects absolutely nothing, and they know that. But it shows an escalation. And this ties to my first point, which ties into the first story, or it ties into the whole scenario, actually, when you think about it. These fake news stories about Russia, like this Don Jr. crap and supposedly him colluding, even though there was no colluding, but now there's an email chain that makes it look like there was colluding because of some douchebag publicist. Something as stupid as that could be what starts the snowball down the hill to a full-scale war with the Russians. It sounds stupid, but you got to consider this keeps happening. I mean, we have a lot of unresolved issues with the Russians as far as Crimea goes and a lot of other problems that we still haven't dealt with because we're still busy worrying about who Don Jr. emails or who the ambassador of Russia talked to, rather than dealing with the actual geopolitical issues that are threatening the stability of the entire planet. No, instead of that, we are sitting here trying to figure out what this email, what did Don Jr. know and what did they talk about? And is this treason? All the while we're inching closer to war with the Russians. And I don't understand if the left just doesn't get what that would look like, or they just don't care. But a war with Russia would not look like Iraq. It would not look like even Vietnam. It would be on the scale of more World War II. I mean, you'd be millions dead, and it would be horrible. And I have no idea how it would end. And it wouldn't just affect Russia and the United States. It would affect the entire world, and millions of people would be dead. The economy would be smashed. It would be about the worst possible scenario. I remember when I was a kid growing up during the Cold War, the worst possible scenario was a nuclear war with Russia. That was the absolute worst thing that could ever happen. Because if that happens, then what do we do? Then, I mean, the planet's gone. There's not much you can do then without a planet. But it seems that a lot of those folks have forgotten that. And they've forgotten how horrible these things can be. So they don't mind inching us closer to war a little bit at a time. And I suspect that these allegations and they're going to start having a much more negative effect on the way the Russian government works with our government. And you have to remember, we have troops right next to each other in Syria, right in firing range. Who knows how, CNN's delusional rants about Russia being the worst state, that's basically running Donald Trump and running our president. Who knows how far that could push Russia or even Trump to do something that could be misconstrued by the other side. It only takes one mistake and we're in a war, or at least a lot of people are dead. And all this because Don Jr. went to some meeting with some douchebag publicist set up? Really? What a day. Well, that's how things stand. But let me know what you think. I especially want to know about this Donald Trump Jr. fiasco. Do you think this is a big deal, or do you think it's not? I think at a bare minimum, I think it's not a big deal. I don't think he did anything illegal, and I don't think there's any way anything illegal is going to be done. But what they can do is they could keep bogging down the administration with this stupid, meaningless garbage day in and day out, and that could be enough to at least bog down the administration of getting anything done, at least any of the things that people like me elected him to do, like shut down put the border wall up, fix the economy, all those type of things, keep us out of foreign wars, which obviously that's not working. So, I'm all for keeping the administration honest, but we also have to keep the media very honest. And when they're perpetuating garbage like this that could potentially bring the two superpowers to blows, it needs to be taken seriously, and it needs to be vetted very carefully. And I'm telling you, after my experience, and not just me saying it, a lot of other people are saying it, saying Don Jr. was dumb to take this meeting, but he did nothing illegal. And this was just a setup. I mean, you probably got the DMC's fingerprints on it somewhere else. And if you think the Democrats don't do worse than this, you're insane. This is politics 101, man. This is nothing. But my problem is he was really stupid to fall for that. I mean, that is just a dumb thing to be snared into. But there's no going back on it now. So guess we just get to listen to it for a couple of weeks. Well, let me know what you think. This has been Patrick Costas.